There are stories we'd rather forget, places we avoid, names we no longer say out loud. Welcome to the Forbidden Chronicle. In the heart of New Orleans, among wrought iron balconies, the scent of caramelized sugar and voodoo chants whispered through the alleys of the French Quarter, stands a majestic mansion, frozen in time and haunted by one of the darkest chapters in the city's history. At 1140 Royal Street, an elegant facade, 3 stories, an inner courtyard, dark shutters always half closed, a building that seems to be holding its breath. This is where Delphine LaLaurie lived, born Marie Delphine McCarty in 1787, into a wealthy Creole family. She grew up with power, education, and privilege. She married 3 times. Her last husband was a young French doctor, Louis LaLaurie, 20 years her junior. In 1831, the couple bought the Royal Street mansion. Very quickly, Delphine became one of the most prominent figures in high society. She was admired, imitated. People talked about her grace, her balls, her dresses from Paris. But in the city, another rumor is spreading, a darker rumor. Some neighbors say they hear screams. At night, behind the walls and especially coming from the upper floor, a floor that is locked. Forbidden, the servants avoid it. Some claim there is a strange smell lingering there. Others say they hear howls, like animals, but with no animals around. During the year 1832, a lawyer appointed by the authorities investigates the living conditions of the servants in the house. He finds nothing. Delphine appears polite, brilliant, untouchable. But the rumors persist and the fear grows. On April 10, 1834, a fire broke out in the manor's kitchen. Black smoke rose into the scorching spring sky of Louisiana. The firefighters rushed in, forced the doors open, and what they found in the kitchen would haunt them forever. A woman, a servant, chained to the stove, 70 years old. She had set the fire herself. When asked why, she replied, "Because they were going to take me upstairs, and no one ever comes back from there." The rescuers went up to the forbidden floor. They broke down the locked door, and hell opened before them. The New Orleans Bee newspaper of April 11, 1834, reports, "It is impossible to give an accurate idea of the scene of misery and horror that this attic presented. 7 servants are found alive, barely. Some are chained, others are tied up. A man is hanging by his wrists. A woman is found with an iron collar embedded in her skin. Another, her skull split open, still conscious. A third has broken bones that have been grotesquely reset." Judge Louis Dufour, present at the scene, declared, "I saw a woman unable to walk. Her wounds were so deep." Another could no longer even speak. She stared into space, her eyes wide open. Surgical tools are found on a table, rusty chains, and in a corner, a cage filled with human bones. Some doctors on site refuse to comment. Too shaken, even the police officers leave the room in tears. The next day, the city erupts. A huge crowd gathers in front of the house. Hundreds of citizens demand justice. They smash the windows, destroy the doors. The mansion is emptied and ransacked. But Delphine LaLaurie has already fled. According to official reports, she was discreetly smuggled out to Mobile, Alabama. Then, a few weeks later, she is said to have boarded a ship bound for France. Letters found in the following years confirm that she lived in Paris, far from the scandal. She is believed to have died in 1849. She was first buried at Montmartre Cemetery. Her body was said to have been quietly brought back to New Orleans in 1851 and buried in the McCarthy family tomb at St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. No charges, no conviction, no trial. But some whisper it wasn't her escape that protected her, it was her name. While the city tends to its wounds, the survivors themselves are sent to the municipal prison. And what awaits them there is not comfort, but the continuation of their torment. A bleak, cold place, built to confine, not to heal. In their condition, this prison becomes a new ordeal. The newspaper The New Orleans Bee confirms, some of the rescued victims succumbed to their injuries in the following days. According to these same sources, at least 2 victims died shortly after their arrival. Their bodies could not withstand either the abuse they suffered or the conditions of their detention. The newspaper The Pittsfield Sun, citing the New Orleans Advertiser, also reports the discovery of bodies buried in the manor's courtyard, including that of a child. The exact number of victims will never be known. At the prison, Guards describe survivors as emaciated, mute, their eyes empty. Some never speak again. Others give brief testimony before falling into silence. Her hands were lacerated, and yet she was smiling. She kept repeating, "I got out. I got out." Testimony reported in an anonymous article from 1834. Some also report that the prison changed soon after the arrival of these survivors. Strange noises were reported. Chains echoing in the hallways, even though all the cells were empty. But some places never truly close. After the death of Delphine LaLaurie, the mansion changed hands several times. It became a school, a boarding house, an apartment building, a warehouse, but something always felt off. In 1894, a man renting a small apartment on the second floor was found dead in his room, his body mutilated and scattered in a corner of the bed, as if he had been attacked by an invisible beast. A neighbor later claimed that he would spend his evenings talking to someone in the empty air. The local newspaper spoke of an incomprehensible murder, and then the case vanished. In the 1930s, students from a nearby school reported seeing faces behind the attic windows. Shadows. Sometimes, they said, children would cry even though the manor had been empty for months. A teacher, having witnessed several panic attacks in class, had his group moved to another wing. Decades later, in the 1990s and 2000s, several tour guides still refused to go near the building. Some described feeling immediate chest tightness, dizziness, or even fainting when approaching the porch. A local guide shares her experience in an audio interview that's still available online. "I did it once. I went up the steps. I saw my reflection in the glass door and behind me, a woman, but I was alone." In 2011, a European medium invited for a show about the most haunted places in America enters the mansion. He comes out 7 minutes later without saying a word, then starts trembling. "This is not a human spirit. I don't want to stay here." The footage is still available, but the silence speaks louder than the images. And even today, when the light fades on Royal Street, some passers-by stop without knowing why. They look at the closed shutters. They feel a chill, a tightness in their chest, and sometimes that voice behind the door, "Help me." Then comes 2007. The actor Nicolas Cage buys the mansion, officially to write a horror novel. But barely 2 years later, he loses the house, seized along with several of his other properties following major financial troubles. Rumors start to circulate. Some talk of a curse, of a place that refuses to be owned. And then, a strange event draws attention. Shortly after losing the mansion, Nicolas Cage has a white pyramid-shaped tomb built in the St. Louis Cemetery in New Orleans, the same cemetery that holds the graves of Delphine LaLaurie and Marie Laveau, the city's most famous voodoo priestess. Engraved on the tomb, Omnia Abuno, everything from one. Cage has never publicly explained this gesture, but for the people of New Orleans, the symbolism is powerful. Maybe he was trying to break the connection or protect himself from it, or simply to seek forgiveness. Today, the LaLaurie mansion is private property, closed off and hidden from the public. No guided tours are allowed there, but every evening, people stop in front of those silent walls. Some take a photo, others feel something, a shiver, a pressure in their chest, a sudden urge to turn back. The walls are still standing, the shutters are still half closed, and the attic is still locked. This place may not be haunted by ghosts, but it is haunted by truths, by suffering, by screams people wanted to forget, and by a justice that never came. So, is this manor just a relic of the past, or a gateway to something older and deeper? There are true stories, and then there are those that feel too real to be ignored. Forbidden Chronicle.